mindset is what was ruling the day, and people got away from that, got away from the idea of being an entrepreneur and moving that. So here's first off, let's, since we're getting started, we got people chiming in and everything. Why don't you go ahead, take a couple of minutes and introduce yourself. Let our viewers know who you are, and then we're going to get back into this conversation. I love having entrepreneurship talks, but I want people to know who we're talking to first. Go ahead, Dr. Will.
Well, hello everyone out there. My name is Dr. Will. I'm originally from Compton, California. I'm affectionately known as America's #1 leadership life trainer. And my start from coming from a single mother, I met my father for the very first time when I was 7 years old, when he was serving time in a California state penitentiary. And so my start wouldn't look like it would be the ingredients for success. But thankfully, early on, I made some choices, and with those choices, I followed them up with some concrete decisions that have allowed me to be where I am today, where I run 3 successful companies, and now I live to really help entrepreneurs get over the hump and get to their what I call their sweet spot of success.
The sweet spot of success. I like that. I like that. Sweet spot of success. So, all right. So we're talking about it. So you own 3 companies, right? Let's talk about number 1, Dr. Will Speaks. What's that all about?
So Dr. Will Speaks is my platform, my speaking platform, where I travel literally all around the world. I've been blessed to travel to over 30 different countries, 4 different continents, and I train entrepreneurs and leaders in what I call the concept of living genius. And when we talk about living genius, it's an acronym that stands for living in victory every day while getting engaged in unique significance. And I really believe that every one of us have been endowed with genius potential, every one of us. And when you look at the definition of genius, it really is operating from your natural ability. And we all have a natural ability. A lot of times we think about the Bill Gates and the Aristotles and the Einsteins when we think about genius, but each of us, if we tap into, and I talk about this in one of my books, Genius Potential, if you tap into your natural ability, develop that natural ability, and then release that natural ability, that's when you're operating in your genius zone. And so that's the platform that Dr. Will Speaks is set on.
Wow, wow. Okay, so now that's Dr. Will Speaks. Now you got to tell me about the other 2 here, because my brain is starting to go as well. So let's learn about the other 2.
Right, and then we have Will Moreland International, and that's one of the first companies I started. I would consider one of my first real major companies that I started, and that's a leadership development company. And we work with Fortune 500 companies. We work with universities, organizations to help build their leadership infrastructure. I believe, once again, as everyone has genius, I believe everyone is a leader. The only question is, what type of leader are you going to be? It doesn't happen automatically. You know, people always debate, are leaders born, are leaders developed? Well, I haven't met a leader that was not born. So we're all born leaders, but what happens is you have to develop that leadership potential that's on the inside of you. And so we travel the nation and we help organizations strengthen that leadership infrastructure. And then the third company is Moreland Investment, which is a real estate investment company where we invest in properties throughout the United States as well.
Ooh, man. Well, I tell you what, I miss the real estate industry a lot. I have to say that's been, my whole adult life, that's what I was doing. I recently started this publication movement. In this publishing movement, and so one of my major passions has always been the real estate market. I loved it. I loved investing in properties. I loved educating people on how to get to attain that ultimate success goal in America. is one of which of home ownership. So I can definitely identify that. The leadership development. Let's dabble into that right quick. Now, you said something very significant. We're all born leaders, but that leadership has to be developed. If you can, give just three nuggets on how someone that's listening right now can actually take today, just three little points, and start developing their inner leadership, their inner leader, or bringing forth that leadership confidence so that they can take those next steps and prepare themselves for entering into a leadership position. Maybe it's a new business, but maybe it's just to advance themselves, unfortunately, on their job. But, give just three quick pointers, if you can, on how they could start building or developing that leadership quality.
Right. So when you look at leadership, you want to find the area that you want to be developed in. I always say any area that you want to see improvement in, you have to develop your leadership in that area. So if we're talking about entrepreneurship, if we're talking about being a mother, if we're talking about being a father, if we're talking about being a supervisor on a job, let's isolate that area. Once you isolate the area that you want to improve in, the first thing I start saying is educate yourself on that position. So you have leadership, and then you have positions within leadership. So when you look at the position of being a father, you want to start looking at material that's going to help and educate you on being a father. I wasn't raised by my father, so when I had my daughter, when my wife had my daughter, I had to read books on being a father, not just to children, but specifically to a daughter. What did she need me to say to her? What type of conversations did we need to have? Then I got mentors. So after you start educating yourself in that particular area, find yourself some great mentors. And I ask questions all the time. If I'm talking to a young lady that I see that has a wonderful relationship with her father, I ask her, what did your father say to you? What did your father do that makes you love him now that you're at the age of 30, 35, 40? What still makes you a daddy's girl? And so I'm a student, Darnell. I'm a student of everything that I want to be good in. Anything that you want to be good in, you have to become a student. And then the third thing is, we talked about it earlier, I'm not afraid to fail. See, perfection is an illusion. So when you think that you have to be perfect to be effective, that's an illusion. I know perfection is an illusion. So I'm not afraid to fail. And so do I always get it right with my daughter? Do I always get it right with my son as a leader, as a father? No. But I'm always failing forward. Give you a prime example. About a month ago, my daughter, she lost her phone. And I was on a business trip, and so she had already talked to her mother about it, and she asked her mother, she said, do I have to tell daddy that I lost my phone? Now, my wife had already discussed it with me. In that moment, when I knew my daughter was going to talk to me about it, was I disappointed that she lost the phone? To be honest with you, was I upset? It's a $300 investment, right? Was I upset? But I had to ask myself in that moment, what message did my daughter need to hear? I already knew she felt bad. I already knew that she was afraid to tell me. I had to ask myself as a leader, not to speak from my feelings, but speak from what I wanted out of the situation. What I wanted out of the situation was for my daughter to be able to trust me to come and talk to me about anything. If she didn't feel safe talking to me about a phone, how could she feel safe talking to me about relationships down the road?
Yeah.
And my daughter's only 12, but I'm setting up. That's what leaders do. They operate from a platform of vision. So I'm setting up the type of relationship that I want to have with my daughter. So when I got on the phone with my daughter and she told me, I asked her, I said, Carol, what happened? She said, I was at lunch. I set my phone down in my pencil bag, and I got up when the bell rung, and I just forgot it. Well, I took the conversation away from the cell phone and I started talking about the pencil bag. I said, "You lost the pencil bag? Oh my God, how are we going to get a pencil bag back?" And she says, "Dad, I'm not worried about the pencil bag. I care about the phone." And I said, "Kara, we can get you another phone. Thank you for telling me." The very next day, she ended up finding the phone. Now, what if I would have blew up? What if I would have belittled her? What if I would have made her feel bad about losing the phone? She wouldn't have trusted me. That's what leaders do. We always look at the end and we ask ourselves, in this moment, what end do we want to create? So those are the three things. I would always say, educate yourself, find a mentor, and don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, I love that. So not being afraid to fail. That's something that like I said, we just started talking about that earlier. Identify, not being afraid to fail, educating yourself to the utmost in the topic, and identify the area of leadership that you're looking. So when you're identifying, you're homing in your skill, you're educating yourself, becoming the best whatever it is that you're looking to lead or looking to do, but at the same time have a realistic view of what failure looks like. Because failure doesn't look alike to everyone, and it's not everything is considered to be a fail, just because it's not exactly what the norm would be, or that I love the word, the illusion of perfection. That in itself is that there. If you don't take away anything else out of this, anybody that's viewing this is using that, coming to that mindset of perfection is an illusion. Because perfection is based upon the eye of the beholder anyway. So depending on who's looking at it, that determines whether or not it's perfect. Because what you perceived as a perfect situation, someone else can come in and say that's not perfect. That's not how it is. I learned that a lot in this magazine industry, and that's why I can find such strength in that. Because in this industry, you depend on editors. And each editor has their own style. Some editors have the experience of being old school from, back before computers did everything. And some of them right now are very, they get into what's going on with Associated Press and all the different formats. But no two editors will look at a document and it be the same. And they pull the same information. And so but trying to produce a perfect document or a perfect magazine became a like something I stopped concentrating on, because you'll never get that. When I started reading stuff like Success Magazine, Entrepreneur Magazine, Fast Company, and started noticing that they had typos, that they had incorrect imperfections in these multi-million-dollar organizations, that illusion of perfection said, boop, go, it's gone. Because if this is, they have the millions to ensure that this does not happen. Here I am, a gentleman just looking to achieve a dream, achieve a success goal. I felt like, wow. Okay, so then I started using the term, we're looking for progress over perfection, because if you sit and wait for perfection, perfection will never achieve, but you can always progress towards perfection. And a lot of people finally started grabbing hold of that, Dr. Will. And so in that, I just want to touch on that illusion of perfection. Have you run into a lot of clients that have that illusion of perfection, that they see that, okay, they want to see things in this perfect mindset, or they're waiting for this perfect box to happen? Or are you seeing a lot of your clientele, or a lot of the people that you're mentoring, are you seeing them focus on that illusion, that disillusion, versus performing or producing or progressing towards that perfection?
Right. So that's one of the things that I focus on. People are gonna fall into two different categories. Either they're gonna be a perfectionist, or they're gonna be a procrastinator. Procrastinators, they look at the amount of work and they say, "Oh my God, I don't have the energy to do all this work." The perfectionist looks at the same amount of work and they say, I don't have the time to be perfect, or I don't have the time to do it right, so I'm not going to even start. And then both of those mindsets, they do stop progress. So one of the first things I do with my clients is I get them out of the gate fast. I always say speed kills. We're going to produce something not perfect, we're just going to produce something. And once you get something, whether it's a book, whether it's an audio, once you get it, then you can start making it better. Then you can start perfecting it. But we need something to work with. You can't perfect or make something better that doesn't exist. And so when I deal with my clients and even with myself, I think people get perfection and excellence confused. Yes, you should produce an excellent model. Yes, you should want to operate in excellence, but excellence is not perfection. You know, I always use the example, the iPhone. Apple releases an imperfect phone every single year, and they wait for the feedback from the customer to make it better. So we go out and people spend $600 for the phone that Apple knows is not perfect. So they set up this website and they call it the help desk. They set up a blog and they call it the help blog. And they are waiting for the customer to call in and say, hey, there's a glitch in my Google Maps. Hey, there's a glitch when I try to do this. And Apple says, thank you for that information. And they go back and fix it. They don't wait to all their engineers, to your point, that they spend millions and billions of dollars on. They don't wait till their engineers come up with a perfect product. They wait till their engineers have a serviceable product, and they wait for the consumer to give them feedback. And so anybody out there that's listening, if you're going to make an impact in 2015, the only way you make an impact is not by thinking about doing it, but is by doing it.
Wow. I'm going to use that one now. You know, that the difference between excellence and perfection. Oh my, that's a nugget that's going on the dream board, brother. Excellence and perfection are not even in the same ballpark. I love that. I love that. So here's another question for you here. As we go into the popularity of authorship, actually is basically the norm now. Everyone wants to become an author. Everyone wants to write a book. They want to be a blogger of some sorts. The power of content is becoming more precious than gold now. You know, information at this point is sometimes more valuable than oil. And but I noticed that you've written several books. When it comes to this authorship model, would you prefer one of somebody that you're coaching to do more of a solo project, or would you rather them get involved with more of a project where there's a lot of contributors inside of it? That's the first part of the question. The second part is, can you let everyone know a little bit about your books and what you've written already? Because I like the one that's more recent. I want to let you introduce that to everyone, but I like the one that you're promoting at the moment because I actually have that same mindset.
You know, when we talk about writing books, and you're right, and we're living in an awesome time where just 5-7 years ago, to get your book published, to be seen, to be heard, was costing thousands upon thousands of dollars. If you didn't have one of the big guys in New York publishing your book, then you couldn't be heard. But with the onslaught of what we're doing right now, Google Hangout, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, personal blogs, websites, with all these tools that are allowing everyone to be heard, I suggest, I like both models, you know, in terms of writing on a subject that you have some experience in, and then also doing a collective body of work. You know, if you and some other publishers got together and wrote a book about the behind the scenes of publishing. That would work. You know, if you wrote a book about the ups and downs of starting your own media empire, that would work. So I'm not opposed to either way. I'm not a champion for either one. I like both models, and when I work with my clients, we find out which model is going to work best for them. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of different experiences in my life, from being raised in Compton, California. At the time, it was said to be one of the worst areas in the United States, to joining the military, to starting my own company, to living in Europe for 14 years, to working with all type of well-known companies and individuals. So I have a wealth of experience that I just try to share with people. And books, when you talk about really multiplying yourself and maximizing yourself, books were one of the best forms that I found that I could do that. And so I started writing books, I would have to say about almost close to 10 years ago. And it was just my way, because so many people were asking me about certain things. It was my way to get my information into many people. Some of my more popular books are, as we talked about earlier, Genius Potential. That's where I talk about everyone has this genius potential on the inside of them. Another book is The Will to Win, where we talk about just that inner desire for you to see your dreams come to pass. And then the latest book that you just mentioned is The Copycat Millionaire. Now, this book is a book that I've worked on for the last 4 years. And what I did was I interviewed several multi-millionaires and a few billionaires, and I've read over 150 books on the subject of wealth accumulation. And what I've done now is I've taken all that, the interviews, the books I've read, from Think and Grow Rich to The Richest Man in Babylon to The Automatic Millionaire to Wealth Creation by Dr. Kimbro. I've taken all of that, Darnell, and all the interviews that I've interviewed with people like Dr. Dennis Kimbro, with Randall Pickett, with Michael Roberts, with so many millionaires around the United States. What I've done is taken all this information and I put it in the book, Copycat Millionaire. And the premise behind it is you're a lot closer than you think. The blueprint is already out there. It's already been laid. One of the parables that I use in the book, it says there's nothing new under the sun. So you don't need to recreate the wheel. All you need to do is start asking yourself different questions. And so if year after year individuals are becoming millionaires, you have to start asking yourself, then why haven't I become a millionaire? And when you start asking yourself that question, what happens is you'll find out that everything that we do in this life is systematic. Everything is a system. So you have to ask yourself, am I in a system that's going to produce that type of wealth? So just real quickly, if you're on your job January the 1st and you're a salaried employee and you get $60,000 a year, you're in a system that is not going to produce $1 million. You already know from January 1st to December 31st, you're making $60,000. So now you need to make the choice. We talk about this in the book. Do you want to be a millionaire? If you want to be a millionaire, then you have to get in a different system. So maybe it's taking that $60,000 and investing it in something else. You know, you may use 40 of that 60 for your living expenses, but what are you going to do with the 20,000? Are you going to start investing in real estate? Are you going to start your own company? What are you going to do? And so we can tell, like, there's somebody right now, if you don't have a plan to do something different with the 60, the 70, the $100,000 you're making right now, then you're not going to become a millionaire. It's just that simple. And so there's five ways collectively that a person can obtain wealth. One we know is sports. Another one is specialized skill. Specialized skill, if you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're a consultant like myself. The next one is if you win the lottery, or entertainment, or you're an entrepreneur, what we're talking about. Those are the 5 ways. Those are the 5 basic ways you can achieve millionaire status. If you're not in one of those systems, and out of those 5 systems, 87% of millionaires come from the entrepreneur pool. So your best bet, even if you're not going to leave your job, you have to think like an entrepreneur. You have to have at least 5 to 7 different streams of income if you're going to reach millionaire status.
Wow, that is a lot to take in. A lot of people don't, because when you really think about it, one of the things we were sharing with someone is we were talking about somebody who makes $100,000 a year, and they've been making $100,000 a year for the last 10 years. And I said, do you realize what kind of lifestyle if you really knew what you had, what kind of lifestyle you should be living versus the lifestyle that you're currently doing so? Because 10 years at $100,000 makes you an official bona fide millionaire. The problem is that you don't ever see that millionaire status because of the debt, because of the decisions. But that's literally over the last 10 years, this is what someone was actually doing. But they were diametrically opposed to opening up an opportunity to bring in some money from an entrepreneurship factor or basis that would allow them to create a sub income that would help facilitate the rest of their lifestyle, so that they can actually see and actually live in that millionaire status. I love the Millionaire Next Door book. But these are the things that, when you really look at it, you don't think about them over the course of the time, because we're programmed. Get into drudge. So the copycat millionaire idea, in which we're saying, it has to be something that a lot of people are going to need to read. People need to pick up this particular book, because when you think about it, I refuse to open up and try to reinvent the wheel. I learned in the mortgage industry a very long time ago, don't even try it. It's not necessary. There are systems in line. There are people who have done it already that are successful at it. You take what they've done, make it your own, and you produce from that. And I think that every millionaire has a story. Every millionaire has a base to work from, and they all have that sacrifice that they're willing to make. But you have to be willing to make the sacrifice. You have to be willing to have your own success story, and you have to have the opportunity. You have to open up yourself again, the opportunity to fail. And so, I don't mind the idea of copycatting in this, because emulation and imitation are the two highest forms of flattery. When you really think about it, if somebody has a concept that's good, it's that good that you want to copycat from it, then you know the process is good, and it's something that it's made them money. It's making you money. It's a great thing to do. But now, I just want to cover 2 more things with you before we sign off. The biggest thing that I want to talk to you about right quick is this, a kind of off subject, is your military background. How does that military background affect your life today as an entrepreneur? Because one of the things that I do love doing is supporting our men and women who have served. And I think that I believe that what you're about to say is going to impact the lives of a lot of people, because I believe in all my heart that military men and women are some of the most trained and disciplined people that you can find to work with and work for, or have work for you. So I'm gonna shut up, but I really want to get how your military background plays a part in your entrepreneurship success today.
Well, being a United States soldier, number one, it did teach me discipline. The other thing that it taught me was to develop a strong work ethic. And then the third thing that it did was it taught me about teamwork. I have this concept that I teach in leadership called instant trust. And what I mean by instant trust is when I joined the military, I received what we call a battle buddy. I had never met this individual before. I knew nothing about this individual, but my supervisor said, "This is your battle buddy. You have to protect him, and he has to protect you." Instant trust. I didn't have time to decide if I liked him based upon where he was coming from or based upon his background views. I had to trust him instantly. He had to trust me instantly. And so when we keep talking about reprogramming your mind, when people talk about, "I don't know you like that, I can't trust you," I was in an environment where I had to trust someone instantly. So that taught me how to go as an entrepreneur with my gut, with my instincts. People are amazed when they work with me. I don't need contracts. I don't need all this other stuff. I go with my gut. If I trust you, Darnell, I trust you. And I learned that being in the military, because when you go through all these other little obstacles in your mind, well, let's see how everything goes 2 months from now, 3 months from now, the opportunity is gone. It's gone. It's over. So you have to learn and develop how to trust your instincts. You have to already in your mind have a trust system. I have a trust system already in my mind that I mentally evaluate someone within 3 minutes based on their conversation if I'm going to move forward with them. And so those are some major things, that teamwork, that work ethic, and that discipline. I bring that to the table as an entrepreneur. I've been waking up early for a long time, since 1996. I've been taught to work through my tiredness and be alert at the same time. So how to really be alert after you've not had hours and days of sleep. And so those are things that I bring over to my entrepreneurship journey.
Wow. Once again, I'm going to say it, if no one else has said, thank you for your service. Thank you everybody else who serves, alongside. I applaud you for doing what you've done and the time that you've taken out of your life and putting in making sure that we enjoy the freedom to even be able to have this conversation. So for all the military friends and family, I really want to say thank you from Evolve Media Group and from myself right now. I just want to take that time to say thank you, because we are in full support of getting you guys back to work when you come home. We're creating opportunities, and not only that, but educating the opportunities such as Dr. Will here to become an entrepreneur. You have what it takes already. You're programmed literally to succeed. You can't be in the greatest army in the world and not be programmed to succeed. It's impossible. But we want to let you know from Evolve Media Group that we support every one of you, until every single one of you come home and hug your family, hug your babies. We're going to be praying for you. We're going to be looking out for you. I just wanted to take this moment in this interview and say thank you. So one last question, and then we're gonna wrap up, man. I really have enjoyed this, and I can't wait to work on my first project with you. This is what I want to do. If I like doing this with every interview that I've done versus in the magazine and conversation, if we can take home one thing today, starting right now, take home one thing, what would that one thing to put into practice today, this hour, right now, what is the one thing that you could give our listeners to do that will help shape either their leadership or their authorship mindset and get it done?
The very thing and the most important thing that I would tell everybody listening to me right now, today, in this moment, make the choice not to be average. Make the choice not to be average. A lot of people don't want to be average. A lot of people don't desire to be average, but they've never made the choice not to be average. Now, once you make that choice not to be average, the second thing you have to do is now make the decisions not be average. And what I mean by that, what do exceptional people do? They read every day, they exercise every day, they surround themselves with eagles and not pigeons. Once you make the choice not to be average, you now have to decide to separate from doing what average people do. So the average person reads maybe one book a year. So if you decided and made the choice to read 5 books this year, you step away from being average. The average individual watches 8 to 9 hours of TV a day. If you cut that TV time in half, you would step away from being average. So you want to make sure today that you make the choice that I'm not going to be average, and then decide what do you need to do to live an exceptional life.
Man, wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. Make the decision not to be average. That's a hard thing to do because everybody gets complacent. Everyone gets okay with their current situation. Most people are so upset with their situation they can complain, but they won't make that decision. And the encouragement from Dr. Will today is to decide not to be average. Go home, take that idea, take those thoughts, take those opportunities, everything that we've talked about in this conversation, and put it to work. Because if you're doing that, if you're putting it to work, you're making the necessary decisions not to be average. I thank you, Dr. Will, for taking the time out to speak with us and be a part of this virtual roundtable. I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to chime in, who's watching us on YouTube, who's watching us via the link on this live Google Hangout. I want to say thank you from the Evolve Media team. And we're getting ready to launch Evolve TV. Get ready, get ready. Get ready. Spring 2015, Evolve TV is coming live. We're going to go online. It's going to be a 24-hour-a-day station where interviews like this is going to be an everyday occurrence. So we want to say thank you once again. Good looking. We really appreciate you. Stay tuned for the next Evolve Media Group's virtual roundtable, virtual interview. Have a good one.